Planet Nutshell began in my own home office here in Cambridge as I was attempting to find a way to create original content for what at the time was a very new thing called YouTube. And I made a few videos that were educational, and more people liked and saw these videos. And then eventually people started paying me to make these videos. And after that, I got involved in doing series for organizations like UEN, and then the client list just grew and grew after that.
Do you remember one of the first projects you ever did?
The first project I ever worked on was a look at a Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken. And I really wanted to explain why the poem is not about what people think it's about. And I had learned that from an English professor in college, and I felt like that would be a really interesting thing to make a video about.
What did you study in college?
I was a creative writing major, which was part of the English department. And I think that degree was really helpful because it helped me learn about how to articulate myself, and how to do research, and how to understand the world through the eyes of other people. And my very first video job was operating a robot camera that drove through the sewers of Seattle and took video of where the sewer was broken. And my job was to edit this video into a highlight reel of the worst places in the sewer. And that's where it all began, in the sewers.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So up next, what kind of projects do you make at Planet Nutshell?
We do a lot of different kinds of things. We primarily focus on animation, and we do animation to serve clients, mostly in education, nonprofit, and the healthcare fields. I strongly believe in making media that has like a social impact or one that makes people's lives better. And so I've shied away from advertising or marketing type work and have really committed the studio to doing work that we all feel really good about. I have a lot of favorites. Some of them are projects we've worked on for UEN, of course. But I think the most challenging and most rewarding project has been our short film that we made on our own. And this was one of our first original works. And we learned a ton from that. And it has been, as I said, a really rewarding process to see that through to the end. Yeah, and that, by the way, that's our film called Azúcar. As I said before, a long time ago, I learned how to tell stories that weren't so much about me, although, perhaps I have some interesting stories to tell, but to find ways to tell stories through the eyes of other people, and to help audiences empathize with the experiences of other people. And I think that's what great art does. And so, I was really moved and concerned about some of the issues going on at the US border, the southern border. And that moved me to tell a story and humanize the experiences of what's going on down there, and put a human face on what is sometimes a really abstract concept in the news media, and to show that these are people who have real lives and real hopes and dreams and histories that are pushing them northward.
That's a really amazing message. What is the video making process like at Planet Nutshell?
So with animation, you always want to do the least amount of work up front, because actually animating things is a ton of work. So a storyboard is a great example of pre-production that gets a project off the ground. You kind of conceptualize what it's going to look like just in very sketch format. Then you sort of finesse that and rework it and revise it over and over again until you're really happy with the visual flow of something before you commit resources to making final illustrations or doing final animations. So to talk a little bit about the process of making UEN's holiday videos, we've been doing that for quite a while. So we have a process that's been developed over a few years. I think what really drives those projects is this notion of connection, bringing people together in the ways that technology can do that in a really positive way, in the way that UEN is instrumental in that, and the way that UEN is instrumental in fostering and promoting this sort of educational connectedness throughout Utah. So we really try to embody that in these shorts. The most wonderful thing about those shorts, I think, are the illustrations, and we've worked with a really talented children's book author for the last few years to create the illustrations. But the process for that is much the same as everything else. We start with a concept, and then we do a storyboard, and then the folks at UEN help us, refine that.
We actually have little from on set.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite thing about your job?
I just feel really lucky that I have a creative job. I never was the type of person that could really do jobs that required me to sort of just do what I was told. And I always needed a sort of creative way to express myself. And I'm just really thankful that I get to do that as part of my work, and I'm really, really, really thankful that I get to make experiences that make people happy and help them learn things. So what would I say to student filmmakers who want to get into the industry? I would say focus on the fundamentals of visual art, drawing, visualization. Those are really key, tenets of being an artist. The other thing I would focus on is storytelling. So learning how stories are made, how stories are put together, and how stories impact people. So what makes an effective story and how to visualize an effective story. Those are the sorts of things that I think are really important.
Thanks so much for coming on to Students in Focus.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Josh. We're excited to now share our holiday wishes with you from all of us here at UEN.
New challenges mean new opportunities. New solutions. And new ways to connect. Every step of the way, UEN is there, supporting innovations across Utah and beyond. Happy holidays from all of us at UEN.